Hey there, my name is Miles Meehan, and welcome to Take 3. Take 3 is when I take 3 of your questions about the entertainment industry, whether that be film or television or just acting in general, and I answer them for you. So these questions are pulled from Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and sometimes our acting classes here at Stage Right Acting, and I'm going to be answering those for you today. So let's start out. So our first question comes from Stephanie Gillum from Snapchat, and she asks about memorization techniques. So what are some of the things that help you memorize? What are some tips and tricks? So in general, this is a question I get quite a bit at the studio when I'm doing private lessons or in classes. And there's a few things I want you to remember and try with memorization. First of all, none of these techniques are just going to be generalized. So I want you to pick the one that works best for you, and there might be other ones that you know of. And if you know of a different technique I'm not mentioning, go ahead and put those in the comments here. But some of the things I do, first one is I write out my lines. If I'm having a significant issue remembering a certain line or a page, whatever it might be, I just write it out. There's something that happens when we actually write it down, when we actually use our hand to put that on a piece of paper, that helps with our memories. So that's one way. The second way is chunking. So we take chunks of the text, and whether that be a big paragraph or a monologue or just the scene itself, and you take a chunk of it. Take out a piece, and maybe it's the first sentence. So you learn the first sentence, memorize it, then you take the second sentence, then memorize the second sentence separately of the first sentence, and memorize that well. Then you go back, first sentence, second sentence together, and then you put those together, memorize it, and then add the third sentence, so on and so forth. So that's another technique that often I use and other students use. So first we have writing it, then you have chunking it. Another way you can do it is by taking your phone or something that records, and you record the other person's lines and leaving space for your lines. So for instance, I would say, hey, how are you? I'm doing great. Hey, I had a question for you. Right, in that portion where I was not talking, those would be your lines that you're trying to learn. Then when you press stop, you have a recording of the other person's lines, so you're not necessarily dependent on having somebody else. It's something you can use in the car or when you're walking around on the street or something, you put your headphones in and listen to it. Now, the other thing I want to get to, that's just memorizing your lines, just in a rote way. The other thing I want to mention is know your story. And know the other person's lines. I'm not necessarily saying that you have to have the other person's lines memorized. However, know the story, because any good scene, whatever that might be, it's going to make sense what your next line should be. And if you're actively listening, the story and your response should make sense. So make sure you're integrating your lines into the story as a whole. All right, let's go on to our second take, or our second question. Our second question comes to us from Liz Dix. So Liz is in one of the classes here at the studio, and she had a very great question about self-taping. So we've been doing some mock self-taping auditions here at the studio, and she asked me, can we use the space and pantomime and use object work when we're doing a self-tape audition? Can we leave or enter the frame? That is a great question, and the answer is yes, absolutely use your space. Now, of course, you're going to have a confined framing. So for instance, in this frame, I only have about this much room. So I don't want to do things that are too far over here off camera because you didn't see me, or too far over there. I don't want my back to be to it the whole time, of course. But if I decide I want to put where someone's walking in over here, I'm setting that to that side of the camera. And then maybe I'm working on a computer, right? So I have the computer here. When somebody walks in, then I can look at them over there. Now, it seems so simple, it seems so little, but blocking like that is actually really effective. And it's interesting, rather than just sitting there the whole time and looking at your reader and not having a space. And what that's going to do is going to create a context. It's going to create a real space for you, even though it's not there. And that's going to help you plant your feet on the ground as an actor. So absolutely use your space. Find where everything is in that scene. See where those things are. If you have multiple people talking in the scene, then have one person here, have another person there, so you can switch between when you're actively listening to them. The other thing, yes, you can enter the scene, you can enter the frame, you can leave the frame at the beginning or the end. You don't want to do that in between during the scene because that might look odd. However, if your character walks into the frame, walk into the frame. If they have to leave because they're mad at the end of it, leave because you're mad at the end of it. You want it to be as realistic as possible, but we do want to avoid using props. Using a cell phone typically is fine, or a water bottle, something like that if it's relevant. But you don't want to, bring the big table and set up a scene and do a bunch of scenic design. Keep it simple, but keep it interesting. Great question, Liz. Third question comes from Laura Bradshaw. Laura Simpson on Twitter, and she asks, how can I find monologues? Where do I find them? This is a question we get all the time. Now, the internet is really good about helping us find things, so you can definitely search online, but I think one of the better things you can do is watch plays, watch films, watch different things like that, because when you're reading plays or you're going to the theater, whether that be movie theater or just a community theater, whatever it might be, you're going to be hearing these monologues in context. So you might find one that's really good and you go, oh my goodness, I really like that monologue, rather than just Googling online and taking something off and using it. So I would suggest, Laura, and anybody else asking the same question, go out to the library or get on Amazon, whatever it might be, and buy plays or check out plays, or just go watch films and find monologues that you really like and use those. Then you should be able to go online and find them as well. Or just, I guess, transcribe them from the movie itself. So there's lots of resources, but you can also ask a drama teacher or an acting coach, whoever that might be. But definitely watch the show or the film, television show, whatever it might be, to get those monologues. Well, guys, that is the end of Take 3. I just want these to be quick videos helping you guys figure out these questions, because I know there's a lot of them that come from this industry. So I encourage you guys to continue asking, whether you're snapping or commenting or tweeting at me. Please make sure to keep asking these questions, because I want to help you go further in this industry. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.